The rising of young leaders at the helm of affairs in Africa is a breath of fresh air.
Being black is not a crime. It is time for the West to withdraw all their activities from Africa, especially France.
Leading the largest nation in the European Union.
Si chiama franco CFA. È la moneta coloniale che la Francia stampa per 14 nazioni africane, alle quali applica il signoraggio e in forza delle quali sfrutta le risorse di questa nazione.
For the exploitation of African nations, that too on live television. And she doesn't stop there. Her concluding statement will make the theme of this tussle very clear.
Non è prendere gli africani e spostarli in Europa. La soluzione è liberare l'Africa da certi europei che la sfruttano e consentire a queste persone di vivere di quello che...
African countries have had coups that have seen the ousting of their leaders. Leaders they claim are puppets placed by France, so they can do whatever they want with the country and their resources. One may think they are wrong, but the fact that this got France angry and threatens to retaliate sends a message of what is really happening. France has threatened to wage an attack on Niger, who just had a military coup, and says the military leaders are a threat to their interest. They just displaced over 1,000 French troops from Mali to the capital city of Niger. But why is France so worried? What interest are they protecting? Well, if you haven't been current, let me bring you up to speed. Niger military leaders just placed a ban on the export of uranium and gold, especially to France. Uranium is a major mineral needed by France in its nuclear power plants. Uranium from Niger powers over 1/3 of homes in France, yet over 85% of Niger doesn't know what electricity is. Isn't that unfair? I mean, it is only fair if France helped in developing places and make them enjoy even a piece of their uranium. As a matter of fact, it is not just France. 25% of uranium entering the European Union comes from Niger. It is only logical that one day people will come to the realization that they are being cheated. And they just did. But France has decided they won't let it slide. France says it will do everything to protect its interest in Niger. It will be important to note that the USA also has a military base in Niger, and also you can remember it is a NATO member too. And you know, whenever any NATO country is at war, other NATO member countries come to help. This is exactly what is about to happen. The military leaders of Niger's neighboring countries notice the pattern and decide to back Niger. Who are these leaders and what pattern have they noticed, and why do they back Niger? Well, if you've not been informed, Mali and Burkina Faso have also had coups and their countries taken over by the military leaders too. Mali is led by Assimi Goïta, while Burkina Faso is led by Ibrahim Traoré. These two are strongly in favor of France leaving all of French Africa. They also warned that any attack on Niger means an attack on Mali and Burkina Faso too. They warned France and the US that they won't hesitate to send in troops to back Niger. Other ECOWAS member states condemn this act too, especially as the president of Niger is held hostage and they demand that he be freed. They also gave Niger a 7-day ultimatum to let him go. As a matter of fact, Nigeria has closed its borders and stopped all trade with Niger. The economy between Nigeria and Niger has slowed as a result of this, and the people of Niger suffer already as the country's economy heavily depended on Nigeria. The concern of Mali and Burkina Faso is that they see this as the same thing that happened to Libya. The fight starts with one NATO member, and at the end of the day, the country is at war with many NATO members. Can you see the similarity? Libya is in bad shape today because of its richness in oil. Congo is in constant conflict because it is so rich in natural resources and only one person is benefiting from this. France. Today, Niger bans the export of its natural resource and tit becomes a threat to France's interest. What do you think about this?
This is insanity of the highest order. How have we allowed this carnage to go on? They did something else in addition to chopping us up. They also set out to make the African believe that everything African was bad and undesirable, and everything Western, particularly French and British, was more desirable. 135 years later, a system that was put in place to see to it that Africa and her children are forever defeated, that Africa is forever exploited, remains in place today, alive and well. And we sit here and we ask ourselves, why isn't Africa moving forward? Why does Africa continue to be taken advantage of? Well, I'll tell you why, very simply. Until Africa comes together as a continent speaking with one voice, one continent, one people, nothing, and I repeat, nothing is gonna change. This is exactly what our Pan-African leaders wanted to see happen in 1963 when they came together in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. They clearly stated that Africa for the Africans at home and abroad, and that African Union was now. They said Africa must speak with one voice. It is the only way for Africa to take its rightful place on the world stage. Sadly, other thing that France did between 1958 and 1961 in the name of giving us our independence as African countries. France forced the Francophone, and I hate that terminology. There is no such thing as Francophone, Anglophone. They made it up. But for the purposes of communication, I will use that. 14 of those countries, they said, in order for you to get your independence from us, you must sign this document. You thought they could have found a better name for the document. The document was called the Pact for the Continuation. I repeat, the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. We are talking about giving you independence, but sign this pact for the continuation of colonization in a different format. And I'm going to highlight some of those issues that they said you must agree to if you are going to be independent. Hello. Maybe we need to redefine the meaning of independence for the French. First, France said, you see, you monkeys, you don't know how to manage your money. We're going to demand that you deposit 85% of your bank reserves with the French Minister of Finance. Under the French Central Bank, under the control of the French Minister of Finance. France is then going to take your 85% bank deposits from each and every one of you. Deposit those funds in the French stock market under the French name. And you may or may not know the returns. Today, as we speak, the latest figures are saying for every 14 billion that France invests in the stock market from Africa, they are realizing upwards of 300 billion in return. Every year in, year out, because of these deposits from the African countries, France is taking out of Africa over $500 billion. Now figure it out. For every 14 billion, the returns on the investment are over 300 billion, and they are taking over 500 billion. So in actuality, France is taking out of Africa trillions of dollars year in and year out from us poor people, Africans. Back to the pact. So should you want to access some of your money that you have deposited with France, you have to submit your country's financial returns. And if approved, you get to get it as a loan. You can only access up to 20% of your money year in, year out as a loan at commercial interest rates. Your own money. As if that was not enough. They said all your minerals discovered, yet to be discovered, all your oil discovered, yet to be discovered. France and French companies have the first right of refusal. If there's anything left over that the French companies do not want, your people might have. To this day.
World's youngest president, Ibrahim Traoré, blows hot in Russia. Calls on African leaders to forge new alliances.
Actuellement, nous sommes là pour parler de l'avenir de nos peuples. de ce qui va advenir demain, de ce monde libre auquel nous aspirons, de ce monde sans ingérence dans nos affaires internes. Nous avons les mêmes perspectives et je souhaite que ce sommet soit l'occasion donc de pouvoir tisser de très bonnes relations en vue d'un meilleur avenir de nos peuples. Les questions que mes générations se posent sont les suivantes, si je peux me résumer, c'est de ne pas comprendre comment l'Afrique, avec tant de richesses sur notre sol, avec une nature généreuse, de l'eau, du soleil en abondance, l'Afrique est aujourd'hui le continent le plus pauvre. L'Afrique est un continent affamé. Et comment se fait-il que les chefs d'État traversent donc le monde à mendier? Voici des questions que nous nous posons et que nous n'avons pas de réponse jusque-là. Nous avons l'occasion de tisser de nouvelles relations. Et j'espère que ces relations puissent être les meilleures pour donner un meilleur avenir à nos peuples. Pour ce qui concerne le Burkina Faso, aujourd'hui nous sommes confrontés depuis plus de 8 ans à la forme de manifestation la plus barbare, la plus violente du néocolonialisme, de l'impérialisme. L'esclavage qu'on tend encore à nous imposer. Nos devanciers nous ont bien appris une chose.
We Africans are so pissed on the leaders, especially the ECOWAS, because they do not know what the citizens of Africans are passing through in order to find a green pasture abroad. They've been humiliated, they've been neglected, they've been rejected. Even to find work in that so-called foreign land is so difficult for them. But yet, the so-called leaders are doing absolutely nothing for their rescue. Africans cannot be dying in the Mediterranean Sea trying to find a green pasture, while the so-called leaders are there doing nothing. And the people that rise to defend their nation, people like Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, and the bloc called ECOWAS trying to stop them. What nonsense is that?
The African Union must stop condemning Africans who decide to fight against their own puppet regimes of the West.
My happiness is that Nigeria Senate has disapproved Tinubu's request to use military against Niger. We all knew that even before election, Tinubu have been dining and whining with France.
During the summit. Being a very young leader, he easily resonates with a lot of the youthful population, which makes up the majority of the continent. I know I am younger than most of you here. We didn't want what happened, but we didn't have a choice. Since becoming the president of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré has been the center of attraction in the media for his pan-African movements and anti-colonial remarks.